Action! Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. I hope everybody is enjoying their holidays. I am certainly enjoying mine. Had some yummy turkey yesterday, not cooked by me. That's always the best. There's a lovely little gourmet shop around the corner that has fresh turkey, stuffing, yams, cranberry sauce, you name it, they got it. And it's just the two of us, little empty nesters. You might recall that my local electric company busted my vintage stove, so I'm kind of stoveless for a while now. So there's not a lot of cooking in my life. Anyway, let's get into the knitting. I haven't seen you for a while because I've been so busy interviewing all these wonderful authors and other knitters. I have no finished objects. I do have a little acquisition. It's not exactly yarn knitting related, but I'll pull it out in a second. But I am working on mostly one project. It's like very potato chippy. It's mindless. I can sit in front of my computer and watch the videos that you're making while I'm knitting on this. So I think the last time you saw it, I had not yet reached the midpoint. That green stitch marker is my midpoint. So it's the Pearl Soho Hollyhock Wrap by Catherine Lee Abrams. There's going to be a big tassel. Ooh, I have the tassel. I was somewhat afraid of running out of yarn, so I wanted to make sure I locked in the yarn to make the tassels, because you could see there's quite a bit of yarn there. There'll be a tassel suspended from this end as well as the other end. And on their website, not only do they give the instructions for knitting the shawl, but they also give the instructions for how to make these tassels. So I have completed the first half, which is up to that green marker. It'll be twice this length. And I've also gone this much further. So I'm kind of coming down the home stretch. If I fold it where that marker is, you can see I have from here to here left to knit. I have already knit the second one of these triangle panels that will go on the other end. And here it is. I have it on a cord instead of slipping it onto waste yarn. It's on one of these cords that you insert your needle. You insert the tip of your needle here and you can slide the stitches off and on. I thought that it was going to be assembled in the same way as this project. The Ibiza scarf shawl. This one calls for knitting halfway and then starting at the other end and also knitting halfway. When you meet in the middle, you graft those two pieces together in the middle of your scarf. But the Pearl Soho pattern does not call for that. They call for knitting the second piece, putting it on hold, and then continuing to knit beyond here. And the grafting will happen when I get to the end of this. I'll be grafting this piece onto that, which I think will make it quite a bit easier since I'll be grafting from stockinette to the herringbone as opposed to from herringbone to herringbone. I must say I've been a little bit concerned about this project, about how the grafting is going to look, but perhaps because this is so busy, one little row of grafting, even if it's not perfect, may not be so noticeable. I don't know. I'm a long way off from that, since this is how much I have done of the second half. And I have all this to go. Frankly, when I run out of yarn, that will be the end, regardless of how long it is. I haven't really worked on this since I last showed it to you. It's not something I can easily watch videos with or movies with while I'm doing. I can, but right now I'm on a mission to complete this lavender project so I can wear it this winter. It's going to be a nice, snuggly, warm scarf for me. The other project that you haven't seen recently is this vintage sweater that I'm calling Swizzle Stick. This is the front, and there are a variety of parts. When I knit up one of the sleeves, and the collar, and the waistband, it became apparent to me that I would not have enough of this light color yarn to do the entire back of the sweater. So I have begun knitting the back of the sweater entirely in this midnight blue color. As I drop stitches, oops. Let me pick those right up before they go anywhere. This is mohair. It's not likely to unravel that easily. Anyway, I've been working on this. This is the yarn that I picked up at Rhinebeck. Look at the halo on that. I will report, knitting with dark blues has been my nemesis. The last time I knit a navy sweater and I wet blocked it, the water just kept being blue, and I couldn't get it to stop bleeding out. I finally sent it back to the manufacturer, who, by the way, is no more. Maybe she's reincarnated as another brand, but in any event, she got it to stop bleeding. So I've been warned about these dark blues. That color seems to be problematic for yarn dyers. As I was knitting this, I felt that my fingertips were getting really, really dry. First, I started with just moisturizer. Then I went to Vaseline, and it took several days of applying Vaseline round the clock until I finally got my fingertips back. So something about this is very, very drying. I will be purchasing those dye catcher sheets because I certainly don't want this to bleed onto the lighter color. I will block this separately, but the pieces that are two-tone, I'm going to be super careful with. Maybe I'll put ice cubes in the water. I don't know. But this is, speaking of ice, this is on ice for the moment. I'm going to have to base the front and the back together and try this on and make sure that it's coming up high enough with that waistband below it before I proceed, because I may be ready to start decreasing for the armholes. Anyway, yeah, I think you have not seen this since I last talked to you. So I wanted to bring you up to date on that. And that's it for works in progress. Let me grab my acquisition 1 second. Because it's holiday season, I've been wandering around town a little more than usual. And next to an exhibition that I went to see was a charity shop, and I fell in and found this. And when I saw it, I thought, this color is I think it's absolutely perfect for this. Don't you? I was thrilled to find this. And then in the same case, I looked a little further and I saw this. These are all glass beads. They're like chiclets. And they're strung together on some kind of cord, almost like dental floss. But the shape of these pieces, I thought, is so unusual. I really hadn't seen anything like this. And again, I thought it's just the right color. So the neckline of this sweater comes down, and I think it'll be just perfect. I think it'll be just perfect in this zone. This is kind of short, chokery, and it'll fit right beautifully in the neckline. So those are my acquisitions. I'm not purchasing any yarn right now. I'm set for the moment, although you know the temptation is always there. So I just mentioned that I've been in and out of a couple of exhibitions, I guess because it's holiday time. Some of these high-end retailers are creating pop-up shops in Manhattan. One exhibition that I went to was on a luxury watch line called Jaeger Le Coultre. And I took a little bit of footage. I also took some still images of some of the machinery that they use and short film clips that show the very unusual mechanism of this watch. The watch flips over. It was invented in 1931 for the benefit of polo players. Evidently, polo players have to keep track of their time because periodically they must change horses so that everybody starts with a fresh horse. And they were hitting the crystals of their watches with their polo sticks. So this clever person designed a watch where the crystal flips to the inside, the whole watch rotates in. You'll see, I'll put a little footage here. These watches range in price from, I think, about $7,000, $7,500 US to 1.6 million. Very limited quantities of the higher end pieces, but as you'll see, they're just incredible works of art. So the knitting content really is over, but I think the next things I'm going to show you are fascinating enough that you might want to stick around. So the first one is this watch exhibition that I think is already gone. It was there for just a short while, a couple weeks maybe. And then the second thing that I was very fortunate to piggyback onto my friend's invitation, a furniture showroom called DDC had a one-day extravaganza featuring Fornasetti. I believe that they always carry the Fornasetti line, but on this one day they were serving cocktails and snacks, and they had brought an artist over from Italy, as well as some of the staff from their Milan office. But the artist was there in the showroom painting, and you'll see a little bit of footage of her. The backstory of Fornasetti was this man, Piero Fornasetti, was smitten by a very beautiful opera singer. He saw her perform, never had a chance to meet her. She was considered the most beautiful woman in the world. I'll put her name on the screen. Anyway, there was a film made about this opera singer, which starred Gina Lollobrigida, and Fornasetti captured the image of her face and made many, many, many variations of it. There's a very thick Rizzoli coffee table book on Fornasetti. I'll see if I can find a link to where you can purchase it. It's a boxed book, magnificent. And the people who were on the floor of the showroom were showing me through the book. I flipped some of the pages afterwards and took some images for you to see of many iterations of her face. The thing about this furniture is every piece is hand painted and then highly lacquered and polished and sanded and polished again and lacquered, and many steps. So it's got very, very high gloss, but under all of that are these really beautiful works of art. I believe some of the pieces are in museum collections. It's extraordinary furniture. And some of these items have been made for many years, but they're numbered and they're limited quantities of them. The piece that I'm pictured by, they quoted us a price of $35,000, just to give you an idea. So I hope you enjoy this little montage that I've created for you. Before I go there, I wanted to mention one more thing to you. In New York, we have a museum of mathematics, and they are doing some courses on what they're calling topological crochet. I'll insert a link in the show notes. You can go and have a look, and I'll put an image here of one of these three-dimensional shapes that can be created using crochet, in case you're interested. I have some more interviews coming up, so in weeks to come, be on the lookout for those. Keep on enjoying your holidays. Drink carefully, drive safely, wear a mask if you're in a situation where you need one, and everybody take good care and happy knitting. See you next time. Bye.
Hard to engineer. So it's almost as hard to make the case as it is to make the inside. Yeah. And it was actually so well built in 1931 that the models today use almost exactly the same mechanism as the original. Both sides. Now, if anyone is not familiar with how mechanical watches work, so there's a bunch of different types of mechanical. There's automatic mechanical, manual mechanical, but essentially, and then there's quartz, which is battery operated. So almost everything you'll see here is all manual. And so how this works is you have a spring that you are winding, and this spring has about a 40-hour power supply to the faces of the timepiece. So you have to keep winding it roughly every 40 hours for the faces to move. With the spirit of the history that's always imbued into our pieces. And there are over 3,000 diamonds, all individually hand placed onto this piece, as well as some onyx beads and around 300